So we're going to talk a little bit here about the chart of accounts because that's your bones of your QuickBooks file. And the chart of accounts is basically categories or buckets where you're going to put the transactions in. I took you right to the reports page here on the navigation bar, and you can see that I favorited the ones I think work the best for attorneys: profit and loss, which is your annual ins and outs of income and expenses, and then your balance sheet accounts. So balance sheet is more like the lifeblood of the company. It's an ever ongoing, it never ends. If it's a bank account, it'll be your beginning bank balance, and it will travel all the way through the life of the company. So those are the things until maybe you close it and start another one, or it's just continual amounts. It'll be also where your equity section sits. So your money that you put in, maybe your startup costs, those are the things that are going to show up in a chart of accounts. There's assets, there's liabilities, there's equity. Those are your three big ones. And I think sometimes it gets lost. Everybody that I work with, when we work with the attorneys, they just want to see, how am I doing? How am I doing in the particular window of the year that we're working? But really the balance sheet is where the accountants like to look and see how things are going. So I'm going to take you into a balance sheet here, and this balance sheet's on a demo file. So when you're looking at this, know that people have been in here adding things. We've got bank accounts. The bank accounts are assets. So it's money that you've put in a bank and you hold it. So it's money that's the firm owns. So it's an asset. Anything that you've purchased, like computer equipment, would be an asset. If it's over $2,500, you spent a lot of money, or even computer software, or maybe your website. Maybe you spent 10 grand on getting this gorgeous website. That 10 grand gets put into the asset. It's an asset of the firm. And then what happens is it's capitalized. So you're able to start to depreciate it down a little bit every year till the life of it is over. And that all goes by the IRS guidelines. You'll see that we also have, we get down into the trust accounts. So the trust account, you've got a trust bank account, and then you've got the client ledgers. And this is money that there's theory about how you can separate that outside of QuickBooks and have a separate file. I like to keep it inside because there are transfers between, and I like to see the interaction between the files to keep the trust accounting balanced. So what we do is we set it up with a trust liability account. The sub account of that is the client name, and then the sub of the sub is the matter. So that's that hierarchical view, which we'll get into in the ebook a little further down the road. And then of course your equity section is really depends on the type of ownership you have. So if you're an attorney starting out new, you might only be a solo practitioner or a sole practitioner, but maybe your partner set up a partnership. Maybe you set up a personal company. It depends on the entity type, how we would set up the equity section. So that's a little bit of an important thing. And you really want to talk to your tax professional to help guide you through that. I'm going to go back over here to reports, and we'll just go into a profit and loss. And I'm going to give you a little glimpse of my chart of accounts. You want to be sure, and again, this is a demo file, so people have been in here adding some things, but you want to set up your income account however you want to see it. And there's things in here I would definitely clean up. You would want to go into your expense account and start to show, maybe you have auto insurance and things like that. And like I said, this isn't exactly a perfect one, but this is one that people have played around in. Professional fees, legal fees, accounting fees, payroll service fees. You can start to set it up with a parent and subs where you can collapse it down at tax time. So that's another thing that you would want to set up. Basically, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up your income account. Now that can be set up by practice area. If you have multiple practice areas, you can set it up with maybe legal income, and then you could place underneath that legal income, family law, legal income, estate planning. You could start to build it out that way. So you know how much income is coming in under each income type, and then you can collapse it and see the total income that's there. Same thing with expenses. It depends on the practice area. We have a general one that we put together, a chart of accounts that we just have for all law firms, and then we just kind of tweak it for each practice area. If you're using the outside software, it's going to have some limitations where you're only going to have one legal income account, because in that practice software, like a lien law, they're going to track all those different things inside there. So that's where you're going to find anything client side will be tracked. Any income by practice area or any income that you're going to track by matter is all going to be inside that software. So you don't need to replicate it in the accounting. So that's just a little short video on exactly what a chart of accounts is. It's those buckets, it's categories. You're putting the accounts and the transactions in, and how you would set up a chart of accounts is very simple. And I'm just going to come over to accounting and go to chart of accounts. And there's a couple ways to find anything inside of QuickBooks. If I was going to set up a new bank account, for example, I'm going to click the button new. And then it comes up automatically by default to a bank account. But as you can see from the dropdown, there's a multitude of different account types. It's really important to set these up right so that you have them exactly how you need to have them. So bank account would fit for a new bank account. Cash on hand would be more for like a petty cash. In our case, you would probably either pick checking or savings or trust account. Those are the three that you would use. If it is a trust bank account, really make sure that you select trust account for the bank account detail type. That's important when you, especially if you're using the outside software. You're going to give the account a name. I prefer, if I have Bank of America, I will put Bank of America, and then I'll put a dash and I'll put the last 4 digits of the account number in. So if you have multiple bank accounts, it's just helpful to kind of keep that workflow in. If you have more than one bank account, more than one operating, maybe you have operating and payroll, more than one trust account, especially have more than one trust account, you want to make that parent bank account and then subledger out so you can get that total. You want to be able to collapse and get that total of what's in the trust accounts together and what's in the trust accounts singularly. So that's why you'd want to make the parent in the sub account hierarchy. And then it's just basically making the bank account over here. I would probably pick checking if it's my operating. You might even want to call it, and as you can see, it changed it. You might want to even call it operating checking. So you can keep it like that. And that way you've got that name in here. And if it is a sub account, you're going to do that and just start to create your accounts that way. You don't have to worry too much about tracking the finances inside of QuickBooks. Opening balances. Don't ever use opening balances. You want to actually do the transactions behind the opening balances. If you are starting fresh in QuickBooks, but using your balance sheet, then just use the balance sheet and enter that as a journal entry and then go forward with your balances. I never use this opening balance piece. And then description, you can put that in there, but you don't really need to. If you're using account numbers, which I recommend, you would put your bank account number, your account number for your chart of accounts here. And that's the super short, fast version of how you would do an account on starting account on chart of accounts and kind of the background about what type of account is used for what.